Hi, Math 8 students. Today we're focusing on cube roots. To cube a number, find the product of the number multiplied by itself 3 times. To find the cube root of a number, for example 8, you must find the number that is multiplied by itself 3 times to get that number. So for example, the cube root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. A perfect cube is any number whose cube root is a whole number. Let's evaluate the following cubes. So 2 times 2 times 2, like we saw in the last slide, is 8. Therefore, the cube root of 8 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 again is 27. Therefore, the cube root of 27 is 3. 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 again is 64. So, 64 is not only a perfect square, it's also a perfect cube with a cube root of 4. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 again is 125. So, the cube root of 125 is 5. 6 times 6 is 36, times 6 again is 216. So, the cube root of 216 is 6. 7 times 7 is 49, times 7 again is 343. So, the cube root of 343 is 7. 8 times 8 is 64, times 8 again is 512. So, the cube root of 512 is 8. 9 times 9 is 81, times 9 again is 729. So the cube root of 729 is 9. And then 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 again is 1,000. So the cube root of 1,000 is 10. All the numbers in between those listed above are not perfect cubes. We can use that list to help estimate the cube roots of non-perfect cubes. Keep in mind that the cube root of a non-perfect cube is an irrational number, just like the square root of a non-perfect square is an irrational number. Again, those result in non-terminating, non-repeating decimal numbers. So here we have some examples. The cube root of 40 is going to be between 3 and 4 because it falls between 27 and 64. 27, whose cube root is 3, and 64, whose cube root is 4. Then the cube root of 300 is going to be between 6 and 7 because it falls between 216 and 343. 216, whose cube root is 6, and 343, whose cube root is 7. So let's try this out. So on the top here, I have all those perfect cubes, including 1 this time, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So the cube root of 1 is also 1. We're going to estimate the cube root, and then we're going to use our calculator to check our work. So the cube root of 124 can be found by looking at the list. So 124 is between 64 and 125. Therefore, it should be between 4 and 5. Because the cube root of 64 is 4 and the cube root of 125 is 5. Again, we can use our calculator to check our work. If we do 124 x square root y, then change it to a 3, makes it a cube root, we get 4.98663095, which is indeed between 4 and 5. The next one, we make it negative because of the sign on the outside. Then we see where 6 falls in our list. That's between 1 and 8. So it should be between -1 and -2. So again, we look at our calculator to check. We can avoid the negative for right now. We put in 6, x radical y, and then 3, radical being another word for finding the root. And we get 1.81712059, which is between 1 and 2. So the negative sign will make it between -1 and -2. The next one, cube root of 250. Well, 250 falls between 216 and 343, so it's going to be between 6 and 7. I'm not going to use my calculator. I'm pretty sure I got it right. Then the next one, negative cube root of 400, is going to be negative because of the sign on the outside. Then 400 falls between 343 and 512, so it's between -7 and -8. Then the cube root of 178, well, 178 falls between 125 and 216, so that's between 5 and 6. And then next one, negative cube root of 399 is negative. 399 falls again between 343 and 512, so it's between -7 and -8. So hopefully that's making sense to you, and you can figure some of these out on your own. Go ahead and try numbers 7 through 10. All right, so now lastly, we have a word problem here. It says a cube has a volume of 512 inches cubed. Find the dimensions of the cube. So a cube It's just a three-dimensional square, right? And when you're finding volume, it's length times width times height. So that's x times x times x. In this case, it should equal 512, right? Well, x times x times x is just x cubed. So x cubed equals 512. So we need to figure out what number times itself 3 times is 512. So we could do the cube root of 512 to figure out our answer, but 512 is a number we've been working with, and you guys should all know that the cube root of 512 is 8 by this point. So x equals 8 inches. Okay, the next one you'll have to estimate. So use your calculator to figure out the lengths of the sides of the next cube. Again, you're on your own. I will be around to give you guys support when you need it, and don't hesitate to ask questions. Good luck.